Hello, everybody. Hey, this is this is Teacher of the Bible, Jack Coons, another edition of uh, Ambassadors for Christ Ministries. I was thinking of G-Man there for a second, and I almost said this is another broadcast of Preaching to the Choir Ministries, but that's a different show from another person, a brother of a different mother, okay? And so I'm sure G-Man will love to hear that, huh? Okay, so anyway, um, I got a couple of comments concerning some of the previous lessons. Some people look at the lessons and they go, hey, that's good information. Other people look at it and they go, hey, this guy's really stupid. It's all good. It's all good. I don't mind people calling me stupid. Um, I'm actually old enough to where it's just kind of like water off a duck's back. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the way it is. Hey, what do you all think about my new headsets I got since the last time I had a lesson? Look at it; they're nice and comfy up top. Mic comes around pretty good. I've been told I sound awesome. Okay, turn my screen. Okay, you mean like that, huh? All right. Hey, cool. Okay, so that means I have to kind of sit like that. Okay. Uh, anyway, so let me put a comment in the side here for my son who is doing the mods. Okay. There we go. All right. So, yeah, just trying to get the camera adjusted here to where I look even more awesome than I would normally look. But that's okay. So, this whole thing is about textual criticism, okay? It is my opinion, whatever that's worth. It's my opinion that textual criticism has done a good thing or two. They did put the manuscripts into different families. Kurt and Barbara Allen were kind enough to do that for us, and in doing so, that's where we get some of the facts and figures that you'll see. Okay, and so I'm sorry. I looked over in the comments and saw something that my son said to me. We kind of have these little. He knows it throws me off course, but that's okay. Yeah. Anyway, so here's the deal. Okay. Um, yeah, textual criticism. Oh, and by the way, I got this. I just got a comment today. That I don't know whether that means that somebody just saw it or whatever, but somebody was telling me that um, I know nothing about the Vaticanus and Sinaiticus, and I don't know. I always thought the information was pretty easy to find. I mean, I'm gonna tell you how hard it is to find this. Okay, um, if admin is around, okay, uh, admin, are you there? Going once, twice. Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. I'm gonna about to do a screen share, and just to make sure, if you don't see it, you may have to you may have to broadcast me. Okay. Um. Let me just go on with the lesson. Okay. Let me just go on with the lesson here. Okay. I'm going to screen share anyway, but so let's get into this thing. Okay. Let's get into this thing. If I can get my screen share to work, and see right now nothing is happening. All right. Oh, folks, we're having the technical difficulties already. Okay. Oh, well, that was nice. My my screen just did the old jumpy poo there. I have no idea why it's doing what it's doing, but that's okay. My screen is getting all kinds of bigger when it's not supposed to be. Let me see here. This is the control minus I think I have to do to get it back in kind of a little bit of sync there.
Zoom it out. Control minus.
Control 9.
Minus.
Yeah. Oh, well, minus is like past the 0.
Yep.
Yeah. Am I there yet?
You're not sharing, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the problem is that it's so my screen, my controls on my side trying to get to my yeah, it won't do the screen
Is it
share.
smaller or is it bigger?
Well, actually, I went down to it, so let me just check and see if I can get this on here, okay? Because it didn't show up on the screen. Okay. Okay. What do you see on the screen?
You should see the same thing I see now.
What do you see?
Your page.
Hang on here.
Your YouTube page.
My YouTube page.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it shows my camera is off, but I'm on my PowerPoint demonstration.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Now I got to get out of this big black page right here then. Okay. So when you say, oh, wow, my computer is doing all kinds of things now. All right. You are screen sharing. I am now, right? Or is that you doing that?
I presented you and then unpresented you, but you're still on the same page.
Okay, let me try to, here, let me hit stop. Now let me try to hit the screen share again.
Make sure when
there it is, there it is, there it is.
You click the slide projection.
Yeah.
We went through this. Who knows how many?
Yes, I know, but it didn't do it last time.
Nope, you're on the Hangout now.
Where am I at?
You're on the Hangout now.
Okay.
As in, like, showing how many viewers. There's 3 viewers.
Okay. Stop presenting. Now let's try this one more time. Folks, it won't cooperate on the screen share. Here's PowerPoint right here. I click it. Oh, it pops back over to the other one.
You remember you have to start the slide? Okay, there you go.
Is that it?
Now you have to hit the start slide projection thing. Yeah. Hit the start slideshow.
Yeah.
Yep. Hit the start button.
I did.
Well, hit it again. It's still not working.
Oh, okay.
You might need to hit Alt.
Oh, okay. I see what I got. I know what you're talking about here. Let me do this one more time. I know what you're talking about now.
You might want to start it when you're not screen sharing.
Yeah.
And then hit Alt Tab when you screen share.
Yeah, right. I'm with you. Okay, let me do this.
I went through this like 500 times the first time
I
ever made a broadcast.
Yeah. Stop. Okay, so let me come down here. Go here. Go here. And then I do what? The
Alt Tab.
Alt Tab. That's the one. Alt Tab. And then that I have to come all the way back out to where? Here?
Come back over where you can screen share in the Hangout.
Yeah, I'm in there.
It's already up though. And then when it screen shares, when it asks you about screen sharing, change it over to the slideshow.
Yeah, that's there. Now, hang on. How about this?
Congratulations, you have figured it out again for the 3rd time.
All right. Okay, folks.
I think it was more than that, but
hey, I'm a little slow. It took me 10 minutes to get there, but I'm a little slow, okay? All right. And since I'm not on camera,
you're like you're like a mile away from your mic there, teacher.
Yeah, I know. I was getting a drink.
Do it, no, but
all right. Yeah, and I knocked my little fur ball.
Yeah.
I'll have to put it back on later. My little,
I'm gonna cry.
yeah, my little fur ball fell. You know, the little protection thing.
Oh,
So,
well, you better pick that thing up now, or else your mic's probably gonna get dirty and probably get wet and just completely get destroyed.
that's all right. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. Okay, just keep telling myself that I'm good. I'm good. Okay, now
But you're not that.
here we go. Here we go. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. You can play that game. All right. So here's where we are. Okay. I want everybody to remember something. Okay. Uh, this was shown in a previous study. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this is in order to let you know how they textual critics say that they come up with the manuscripts that they have. For example, right now they're using the NA Nestle Allen 28. They just came out with that in 2014. And the UBS, United Bible Society 4. Okay. And so they're using that manuscript, that Greek text, as the new basis. Basically, NA 25, 26, and 27 have been a lot of the basis for the most Bibles that most of what they call the modern Bibles now here in the last few years. Okay. But if you go to this website right here, can you see that website pretty clear, admin,
Yeah.
at the top?
Yep. As long as they have it on HD quality, they can as well.
Okay, good. Okay. So it is it basically, after the HTTP // it's worldview. I think it looks like
Teacher will copy that and send that to me later, and I'll put it in the comments below.
okay. We will do that. Okay. And I don't know if I can copy it now.
No, not now. Later.
No, won't do it now. Okay. So here's what it says. This process of deducting the wording of the original text would be analogous to the following situation. In other words, it's the same way. If the U.S. Bureau of Standards had one and only one yardstick made out of metal, which is the national standard of exactly 1 yard in length, but it was lost, could we look at the lengths of yardsticks across the country, copies of the standard, to reproduce another national standard yardstick, which would be 99.9% accurate in length? The answer is that they show here is yes. This is what the article says. We could, with a high degree of assurance, because we would consider wooden copies from paint stores to be the least reliable, moving right up to metal copies in machine shops as being probably, the most reliable and free from error. I copied this directly, so any grammatical errors are theirs, not mine. The better copies that all agree with one another would take priority over those with a slight degree of deviation in them. Copies with a higher amount of deviation from the vast majority would be discarded. In this way, we would assuredly be able to come up with a reproduction of the original standard that would be 99.9% accurate. Now, this is reading off of their site. Okay, continuing on the same site. Textual criticism, this is right below that. Textual criticism of ancient copies is employed fairly much the same way. With the result of the Greek text of the New Testament, which we have today, is most assuredly almost an exact copy of the original New Testament manuscripts. They just use NT. Norman Geisler and William Nix remarked that only 40 lines or 400 words of the New Testament are in doubt. And this works out to be 1/2 of 1%, and then they show in parentheses 0.5% of the New Testament text that is in any question of being corrupted, meaning the New Testament text we have is assuredly 99.5% accurate. General Introduction to the Bible, Geisler and Nix, Chicago, Moody, 1968, page 367. Dr. F. Bruce comments the variant readings about which any doubt remains among textual critics of the New Testament affects no material of historic fact or of Christian faith and practice. So, there is no fundamental doctrine of the Christian faith which is based upon a disputed reading in the New Testament. Dr. F. Bruce goes on to quote a scholar with outstanding qualifications to make judgments on ancient manuscripts. The late Sir Frederick G. Kenyon, who said the interval between the dates, or the interval then between the dates of the original composition and the earliest extant evidence becomes so small as to be, in fact, negligible, and the last foundation for any doubt that the scriptures have come down to us substantially as they were written has now been removed. Both the authenticity and the general integrity of the books of the New Testament may be regarded as final or finally established. And here we see that's the reference to the Bible and Archaeology, F.G. Kenyon, New York, Harper, 1940, page 288 and following. That was a quote right off of that website. So, the last thing that's coming off of that site in conclusion, it can be safely and confidently said that the New Testament text is fully reliable and accurate as being the precise words originally written down by the authors. To quote Sir Frederick Kenyon again, it is reassuring at the end to find that the general result of these discoveries of the authenticity of scriptures is our conviction that we have in our hands is substantial, in substantial integrity, the veritable Word of God, the story of the Bible, F.G. Kenyon, Grand Rapids, Ermids, 1961, page 113. When you start from the accuracy of the New Testament and read that Jesus and Paul and others endorse the accuracy, integrity, and authority of the Bible Testament too, then you can be assured that the Bible we have that the Bible we truly have, that in the Bible we truly have God's word as originally written. That all that I just read is a quote. So here's what I want you to remember of all that I just read. Here's what I want you to remember. The better copies that all agree with one another would take priority over those with a slight degree of deviation in them. Now catch this. Copies with a higher amount of deviation from the vast majority would be discarded. In this way, we would assuredly be able to come up with a reproduction of the original standard that would be 99.9% accurate. Okay, now I am going to come over here because before I go on, I would like to talk with you just a little bit. Okay? Now, I know I just did a lot of reading. I went through it quickly. Okay? My point of taking the time to read that, and the website is up there. Okay, and or was up there for you to look at. And here is the thing. What? By the way, that was taken from people who support textual criticism. Okay, here's the thing I want to make. When you go to that site and you see that information, and then you continue to study what textual criticism is supposed to be about, they're giving you this information that says, hey, here's what we do. There's all these manuscripts, you know, in the neighborhood of 5,366 manuscripts. At least that's what the count was some time ago. A little over 5,000 manuscripts. And here's the deal, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to take those manuscripts and all the ones that for any given text that agree, we're going to keep those as being the most accurate. And the ones that deviate, the ones that are different, we'll take those and lay them aside. because the ones that agree with one another, those we say, here's a manuscript of, say, the book of John, and here's another manuscript of the same portion of John, and guess what? They match. Guess what? Here's another one, and it matches. Here's another one, but it doesn't match. It deviates, so we're going to take that one, and we're going to put it over here in this pile. So the ones that match, you put in this pile, and the ones that don't match, you put in this pile. Now, the ones in this pile, not only don't they match this pile, but they don't even match each other. You got to get that, okay? So this is the story that I read all that example that they give in order to get to where I'm going to go now in this lesson, okay? You got to remember, this is what they tell us, but sometimes what people tell you the way it is, and the way it is, man, you know the first thought I just had in my mind? The U.S. government. Oh, that was bad of me. Okay, anyway, so our government officials never tell us anything but the truth. Okay? Now, okay, so let me go back to the slides, keeping what I just said in mind, okay? Let me come back up here and do the little screen sharing thing again. Back right over here to where I was, okay? And I do the little screen share, and it goes Shazam. Right there's where I left off. We got a good picture there, admin?
Yep.
Okay. Now, this means, okay, I said all that to say this. Since over 99% of the manuscripts of the majority text agree with one another, that is why they are called the majority text. The manuscripts of the minority text, or the critical text as they're more well known, are less than 1% of the about 5,366 manuscripts. However, this is not the method they follow. No, wait a minute. What do you mean this isn't the method that they follow? Well, I just read you this little story. And this little story said they would follow the majority that agreed with each other, and they would take the ones that don't agree with each other, and they would put them to the side, and they would use the ones that agreed with each other. However, the ones that agree with each other are known as the majority text. This is part of the Byzantine family, okay, where the critical text is mainly that of the Alexandrian family, which we'll get into here in just a little bit. The problem is the Alexandrian family doesn't even agree with each other, let alone the majority. But let's move on, okay? Another quick reminder. I did another video a little while back that said facts about Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus, okay? I have been told in the comments, I have been told that my facts were in error. There is a really nice big link you can look at, okay? And I will get these links to the comments a little bit later, okay? But if you go to this page, you find this excerpt, okay? Right at the top, right at the top. According to Herman C. Hoysker, or Hoyskier, okay? I haven't seen his name before. There are, without counting errors, and by the way, this is off of Wikipedia, which you cannot hardly say is biased towards King James at all, or towards the majority text, okay? Without counting errors of idiocism, and that's just the little the little critical marks that go around different words and all that. You have to look that all up. There's just a lot of different little marks. Okay, without counting those errors, 3,036 textual variations between Sinaiticus and Vaticanus in the text of the Gospels alone, enumerated as follows. In the book of Matthew, now this is textual variants between the Sinaiticus and Vaticanus. Okay, so in the book of Matthew, according to this gentleman, there are 656 differences just in the book of Matthew. In the book of Mark, there are 567 differences between the Sinaiticus and the Vaticanus. In the book of Luke, there are 791 differences in the readings. Okay. And in John, there are 1,022 differences. And this is textual differences between what it says in the Vaticanus and what it says in the Sinaiticus. So in other words, you're reading along in the Greek text of the Sinaiticus, and you're reading along in the Greek text of the Vaticanus, and you going through Matthew, you would be stopped 656 times going, oh, wait a minute, that was a different reading than I have. If you're reading in unison, well, guess what? Here's my point, folks. They're different from each other. Remember our little illustration with the rulers? Remember that? Oh, well, guess what? These are the two manuscripts that almost every Bible, the main text of almost every modern version, is based on these two manuscripts. The Sinaiticus and the Vaticanus are the two main. You look up oldest and most reliable Greek manuscripts, and these two names will pop up almost every single time. And yet, these two manuscripts don't even agree with each other. You type in the same type of information and type in the name Dean Burgon, okay, and you will find he has another railing accusation against them. He agrees not with the numbers exactly, but with the overall report of them. Okay, now here is what the actual method that they do use. What method do they use? Okay, and here again, textual criticism. This is not a biased thing. This is just what they find, what you find when you look it up. Okay, textual criticism or lower criticism is a branch of textual scholarship, philology, and literary criticism that is concerned with the identification and removal of transcription errors in the text of manuscripts. This is very interesting, this wording, because it says errors, okay? Ancient scribes made errors or alterations when copying manuscripts by hand. Given a manuscript copy, several or many copies, but not the original document, the textual critic seeks to reconstruct the original text, okay, the archetype or artograph, as closely as possible. So what they're trying to do is get back to the wording. They're trying to take all the copies. Remember, all these copies that say pretty much the same thing, and they're trying to go, what did the original say? And by the way, nearly all of the New Testament, if you didn't have a single manuscript, the early church fathers quoted the New Testament so often that nearly every single verse of the New Testament can be built just on the quotations of the New Testament alone. They don't even need the manuscripts, so that the manuscripts just provide even more information, and it is unbelievable the accuracy that you can find using between the manuscripts and the quotes of the early church fathers. But anyway, moving on, okay? The same process, right in the middle, the same process can be used to attempt to reconstruct intermediate editions or recensions of a document's transcription history. The ultimate object or objective of the textual critic's work is the production of a critical edition containing a text most closely approximating, the original. So again, what are they trying to do? They're trying to take all these manuscripts and get them, look at all of them, and then read over it. This is the extant manuscripts, the ones that are still around. They're trying to take these manuscripts, look at all of them, and they see all the similarities that are there, and then they see some that are different. And according to our illustration, they would take the ones that are different and throw them away, and they would take the ones that are the same and say, aha, here's all these witnesses that we have where they're all the same. This must be the right thing. And bam, we can put this one, what they call a, I can't even think of the word now, just I can't even think of the name of the text where it's just a single text instead of an eclectic text. There's another word, and it's just not coming to my brain at the present time, but I'll think of it here as we go on. So here in the last sentence down here on this next point, there are three fundamental approaches to textual criticism, okay? We have eclecticism, schematics, and copy text editing. And this is what we're going to look at here to see what these different things are: eclecticism, schematics, and copy text editing. That's what we're going to look at here briefly, okay? So the first one, approach one, is eclecticism, okay? Eclecticism refers to the practice of consulting a wide diversity of witnesses to a particular original. Now, again, I'm going to say this again. Let me do this here, okay? Let me come back here and just talk to you face to face here for a few moments, okay? Now, just so you get this, okay? While there are several Bibles, okay, while there are manuscripts that may be almost complete, okay, most manuscripts are not complete. They have, like, say, the Gospels. Some may have the Pauline epistles. Some may have the book of the Revelation or whatever. Some are just very small pieces of a portion of the New Testament. But the point that I'm making is this: the portion of Scripture that they have, does it agree with this other manuscript that says the same text? And the answer with the majority text is yes. The readings are the same. As a matter of fact, that is how Kurt and Barbara Allen determined what family, and we're going to see that in a minute. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a whole stack of manuscripts. They bring a manuscript over here for whatever portion of the New Testament it is, whether it's the Gospels, whether it's just the book of John, whether it's part of the book of Acts or whatever it is. They look at that, they compare it with another manuscript, and they see how one relates to the other. Is it the same or is it different? In order to see what they all say. Okay, but eclecticism is saying that the Bible did not come to us in one big monolithic text. That's the word I was looking for earlier, the monolithic text. The Bible didn't come to us in a monolithic text. God didn't reach down from heaven and say, here's your monolithic text that goes from Genesis to Malachi, for example, for the Old Testament, and then give us another monolithic text that went from Matthew to Revelation. It didn't happen that way, okay? God gave us the Bible, one epistle or one letter or one gospel at a time, okay? Mark wrote, Matthew, Mark, Luke wrote again for Acts, and Paul, of course, writes the Pauline epistles, and then the different, some of the other books throughout the New Testament, okay? So now, the point that I'm getting at is the manuscripts. We have several manuscripts, but in order to give us this right here, where it is one monolithic text. Okay, this is English, obviously. The King James is what this is. So, in order to give us one Bible, they have to, it didn't come that way. It came as individual books. So, what the scholars did, like Erasmus, okay, gathered the manuscripts together. And when he gathered the manuscripts together and he looks at them to say, okay, here's this, here's this, here's this. This is called the eclectic process, where you pull in from different sources. Okay. Again, the Bible didn't come to us as a monolithic text. And so that's the thing, that this is the meaning of eclecticism, where they're bringing different texts together in order to come up with one text. So that's the first thing. Okay. Now let's come up here and continue on with the presentation. Okay. Moving on. All right. So here we go. Eclecticism refers to the practice of consulting a wide diversity of witnesses to a particular original. Since the mid-19th century, this is, by the way, this is important. Very important. Okay? Since the mid-19th century, eclecticism, in which there is no prior bias. The emphasis, by the way, is mine, where it is made bold. Okay? That is mine. The words, there is no priori bias, in bold. To a single manuscript has been the dominant method of editing the Greek text of the Bible, currently the United Bible Society 4th edition and the Nestle Aland 27th edition. It is no longer the 27th, it's the 28th. I wrote this some time ago. Okay. Even so, this is still what they wrote. Oh, this is, by the way, yeah, and I got this information a long time ago either, as well. So I didn't write this. This is a quote, but it's that 28/7 has been replaced with the 28. Even so, their quote, even so, this is good. The oldest manuscripts, being of the Alexandrian text type, are the most favored, and the critical text has an Alexandrian disposition. Now, I want you to stop with me. I want you to look at this paragraph. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. Can you see my mouse right there in the middle moving around, admin?
Yep.
Okay. Do you see right there? It says, there is no a priori basis. Can you see that, folks? Right there in bold letters. Do you know what a no a priori basis means? Or bias means? Excuse me. I'm saying the word wrong. Basis. It's bias. A no a priori bias means, and I know somebody will make a soundbite out of me mispronouncing words, but that's okay. It's because my mind is traveling at one speed and my mouth is traveling at another. A no priori bias means that you enter the arena without a bias, without a favoritism. Okay? So, in other words, if I was to go see a football game and I was to go, just say off the top of my head, the New England Patriots and the Dallas Cowboys, I would have no priori bias, because I don't care if they both win or if they both lose. I don't care who does what. Okay? I have no liking to either team to any degree to where I would be biased one team or the other. Now, I'm from Pennsylvania, so maybe I'm supposed to like, in baseball, I'm supposed to like the Phillies, or in football, I'm supposed to like Pittsburgh or whatever. Guess what? I just don't follow football. So it just doesn't really matter. But what I'm trying to say is that would be a bias, because I have, I live here or whatever. If a mother goes to a football game and her son is on one team and her son obviously doesn't play on the other team, she has a priori bias Why? Because her son's on the one team. So she favors the one team to win. You know what I mean? She's biased towards the team that her son is on. Okay? But this says, since the mid-19th century, eclecticism, in which there is no a priori bias, wait a minute, to a single manuscript, even so, look down there, even so, over here, see the little mousy poo? Here on the side, bringing it in. Even so, the oldest manuscripts, being of the Alexandrian text type, are the most favored. Wait a minute. Somebody help me out here. Okay? Hang on a second here. Somebody help me out here. Okay? I'm confused. How can I have a no priori bias and still favor somebody? You see, these people, these textual critics say, we don't have a priori bias, but we favor these manuscripts over here. Where I come from, that's called a contradiction. That's called that's called lying where I come from, okay? I mean, well, I'm biased to this side. I'm not biased, folks, but I favor these people. Oh, it's amazing how somebody can make a statement like this, and they do it all the time. People will read that and go, oh, they're not biased, but they favor this. Oh, that's cool. Do you read? Because they just got done telling me I'm not biased, but I favor these. Oh, wait a minute. These are the same type of people that said we keep the ones that are alike and we throw away the ones that are different. The problem is the ones that are different are the Alexandrian, but they're being favored over the ones that are the same. Something's not computing, okay? If you keep that which is the same and you throw away that's different, but you have a bias toward, you don't have a bias, but you favor the ones that are different, so you're going to use them. Okay. Okay. And people tell me I'm stupid. Okay. Okay. All right. Schematics. That's approach 2. Okay? I got a text from my son here. All right. Just answering a text from my son here real fast. Okay? So, here's the deal. And by the way, you might want to, admin, might want to send John the link in case he wants to come in or something, in case he wants to throw in a comment. Okay? Whatever. Approach number 2, schematics or stematics. Stemology, or stematology is a rigorous approach to textual criticism. Karl Lachmann, 1793 to 1851, greatly contributed to making this method famous, even though he did not invent it. And then they say, see who did. See Timpanaro, the genesis of Lachmann's method. This method, get to the meat. The method takes its name from the word stemma, in the meaning of family tree. It just stem is like the root of something, or we use the same thing when you're talking about words. You talk about a stem, the main part of a word, but anyway, which shows the relationship of the surviving witnesses. The first known example of such a stemma, albeit with the name, dates from 1827. The stematic method requires the textual critic to group manuscripts by, look at this, commonality of error. It is required, therefore, that the critic can distinguish erroneous readings from correct ones. This assumption has often come under attack. W. W. Gregg noted that if a scribe makes a mistake, he will inevitably produce nonsense, is the tactic and wholly unwarranted assumption. Okay, let's talk about this. The stematic method requires the textual critic to group manuscripts by commonality of error. Okay, now I'm going to come out there just for a second so I can talk about this. Okay, now families according to errors. This is so amazing. This is absolutely the best part of this. You see, here's what happens. First of all, I will admit that we probably don't have the originals anywhere. The reason for that would be because they just got wore out. I have been through a few Bibles since I've been saved. This Bible is about the third one of these that I've been through. Plus, I've been through some other Bibles that just don't stand up to time. You know, you use them for a while, you wear them out, and they start to fall apart, and you got to get a new one. Plain and simple. You just got to get a new one. So imagine the original text, how the letters were written. They were passed around. They were copied. They were passed around some more and copied some more. They became very used very quickly. And so, yeah. But the copies went out. And I believe God had his hand. That's another thing altogether in the history of the Bible. But I believe the copies, God had his hand upon it, so the copies were pure. Okay, now, here's the thing. Textual criticism uses this knowledge of the fact that they were copied to their advantage, because what they say is that assuredly errors crept into the text for one reason or another. Oh, I'm sure they did at some places, okay? Especially by people who A, wanted to change it, or B, were sloppy, okay? But again, the people that God was using to copy, the people that truly valued and treasured the Word of God, those were people that were making sure they got it right and were asking for the hand of God to be upon them while they were copying the text, okay? So, yeah, there's going to be some people that are just, and they're going to get errors in it. Okay, plain and simple. There are those people who are just flat changing it or taking stuff out. A good period of time, a good period of history that would reflect this would be the Arian controversy. Okay, now for those of you who aren't aware of the Arian controversy, back around the late 300s and early 400s, mainly the late 300s, there was a big controversy, okay, about the deity of Christ. And this isn't about talking about the Arian controversy with Arius. This is about textual criticism. But, you know, during that time, I really believe that there were a lot of manuscript changes going on. And it's one of the reasons we see some of the text manipulated, okay? But the ones that got manipulated were the ones that were handled by people, I believe, that didn't really care a lot. The people who hid their text, the people who treasured their text, and didn't get involved in these battles in the mainstream, weren't affected by it. They were kind of like flying under the radar, and so they left them alone. So the text was preserved. Okay. So here's the situation I'm getting at. Today, you have this thing where in systematics where they're saying, well, they group these things in the family according to errors. Okay, who determines the error, and what are the rules to determine what an error is? Now, I don't have time tonight to get into that kind of information because that's digging in rather deep. Okay, but textual criticism has a host of rules, okay, that talk about how you find these errors or how you find a proper reading. And one of those rules I'll mention very quickly is if you have a reading with an ellipsis, it's probably more accurate than a reading that doesn't. Now, some of you may not know what an ellipsis is, okay? An ellipsis is when you're writing. I don't have paper with me. I should have brought some paper out here. It's when you're writing along, you leave a space, and then you go ... and then you pick up your writing again. That's called an ellipsis. You're just kind of, or like when you quote somebody, and you want to show that your quote doesn't start where they started, you're just taking a portion of what they said. So you go quote, space, ... space, then you put the words in. And then if you don't want to go all the way to the end of what they said, at the last word, you go space, ... space, quotation again. And the reason for this is to show that you are not giving a complete context of what you're quoting. This is an excerpt where you didn't start at the beginning of a sentence or a paragraph. You didn't stop at the end of the sentence or paragraph, but rather you started after it, after the beginning, and you ended before the end. And a lot of times, that's what people do when they quote stuff. But what it means is there was more there that you just didn't write. That's what an ellipsis is for. If you're writing and you don't want to put in a really big quote, you start off with what it says from the beginning. You put quote, and then you start where the sentence starts, and it's a really long sentence. So you just start off the sentence, and then you go at a place where you can kind of make it make sense, and you go ... space, and then you pick up where your quote is so you can show people what you're trying to say. You're showing. The purpose of the ellipsis is to show something belonged there that's not there. Now, one of the rules of textual criticism says if you have a Greek text, if you have a text, a reading that has an ellipsis in it, that is more likely to be the correct reading than if you have a reading that just goes straight through. I want you to tell me something. How much sense does that make? How much sense does it make that if you're reading a book and you're just reading along and all of a sudden it says ... this is supposed to be a quote of somebody's book, and all of a sudden you see ... you go, wait a minute, there was something in there that's not there now. If you see just a complete sentence, you go, the complete sentence. But textual critics say, well, the complete sentence must be wrong. We need to go with the one that's missing something. Folks, I'm sorry. Does not compute. Some of the rules that they have to determine what is an error and what isn't an error, the rules are just whatever. Secondly, okay, a lot of it just simply boils down to the opinion of the critic. And you're going to see that in the last rule of copy or of copy editing, okay, or text editing. You're going to see that because they tell you that right here in this, what this is all about. And let me go there so we can see what I'm talking about, okay? Let me hurry up and go there. All right. So here we are. This is the end, okay, of the schematics. Here we go. Oh, by the way, yeah, and I forgot this. Here are the four major families. There's more families, but the four major families: the Alexandrian text type, the Byzantine text type, the Western. The Western is kind of more Alexandrian than anything else, but there's some other readings within it. So they believe that the Western actually was born out of the Alexandrian. It's the same thing with the Caesarean. They believe it's more or less something that's born out of the Byzantine. But the two main are the Alexandrian and the Byzantine. The other ones are minor compared to the first two. So who determines and what are the rules for determining what is an error in order to place each manuscript in its correct family? Well, it's not using the majority of the manuscripts as the illustration was in the beginning of this, okay? Like I said before, they say there is no priori bias, but they prefer the Alexandrian, or they favor the Alexandrian text type. How can you have, again, a no priori bias and still favor something is beyond me, but that's what they do, okay? So copy text editing, that is the next approach that we have here. Copy text editing. The scholar fixes errors in a base text, often with the help of other witnesses. Now keep this in mind. With the help of other witnesses. Well, would that be a witness that agrees? Or would that be with a witness that doesn't agree? Well, let's see. Often the base text is selected from the oldest manuscript of the text, but in the early days of printing, the copy text was often a manuscript that was at hand. Okay, so they're throwing this thing out here saying older's better. Well, not always, okay? And by the way, there's a reason for Sinaiticus and Vaticanus being older. And in case you did not see my video on facts about Alexandrius, or facts about Vaticanus and Sinaiticus, which are the two oldest large manuscripts, you may want to check out that video, because you're going to find out why they're the oldest. Is because they weren't in use. Okay, they were not in use up until the year 1800, or after the year 1800. They were only found in the 1800s. Okay, using the copy text method, the critic examines the base text and makes corrections, called emendations, in places where the base text appears wrong. Look, hey, observe. Where's my mouse? There it is, out to the side, coming in. Okay, appears wrong to the critic. Okay, this can be done by looking for places in the text that do not make sense. To whom? To whom? Okay, that do not make sense, or by looking at the text of other witnesses for a superior reading. Superior according to whom? Close call decisions are usually resolved in favor of the copy text. Okay, so it's the copy text that they want to choose. Okay, that's the problem. So here's the deal, folks. Here's the deal. All right, we're back. That was the end of that. But here's the deal. Okay, the situation is, and this is what we're looking at. In order to get, oh, by the way, this has been in effect since 1870, okay, in preparation for the 1881 Westcott Hort Greek text, okay? These methods did not come into being until the late 1700s and early 1800s. So none of these methods were in effect during the Reformation and for the Reformation Bibles up to and including the King James Bible, okay? They didn't use these methods. You say, well, then what did they use? Well, obviously something different, okay? And I'll just throw it out there. You know what they did? They prayed. They asked God for guidance. They said, Lord, lead us. And he did. They took the majority of the manuscripts. They found good representation of each. They asked God for guidance. God, guide me to the text that you want, that you know is most accurate. They picked that up, and they turned it into a monolithic text for the most part. I have another paper that I wrote and thing that I may teach on here later called The History of the King James Bible, where I literally go through every manuscript that was used from the days of Erasmus through Stephanus, through Beza, all the way through to get to the King James that we use today. And I do that complete study to walk us through. Folks, I don't adhere to what I adhere to because I just picked up a King James one day and said, hey, you know what? This looks pretty good. I think I'll use this one. No, that's not what happened, okay? I chose the King James because of years and years and years and years of research, study, going over this thing, and coming up to my conclusion. Unlike the evolutionist, I can actually draw you a line saying, this is where we got, here's where it went to, here's where it went to, here's where it went to, here's where it went to. I can show you that transitional phrase or phase all the way from the days of Erasmus up to our King James Bible. Okay, that's why they've got a lot of convincing to do to me for evolution, okay, because they can't do what I can do, okay? Here's the thing, though, in this copy text editing, the textual critic looks at the text and says, I like this. Or he looks at it and says, I don't think this is right. It's very subjective, to say the least, because two textual critics can look at it and come up with two different variants of what they think it should be, okay? And another thing, they've been correcting this for a long time. I've come across different writings of what people say about textual criticism, like the one I said at the beginning of the slide where they come up to 400 lines where they say where it's 99.5% of what they say is agreed upon for the Greek text. Okay, then why don't we get all the textual critics together? If they already agree, now here's the serious question. If textual critics agree on a base text of 99.5% of the Greek text, then why don't they get together, hash out that last 0.5%, and be done with it and say, we got it? Why don't they do that? Well, their answer is, well, we're always getting new information. We're always finding something new, like the Gospel of Thomas or the Gospel of Judas or something else. Those books were rejected years and years and years ago. Now they're being introduced as something. Oh, look what we found. No, you didn't find something. You just rediscovered something that was stuck in the drawer because it was rejected earlier in time. And now that people are more willing to accept things, you're bringing it up as though it's some great discovery. And it's not a great discovery. It's not great at all. Okay. So the bottom line, okay, is that copy text editing is when the scribe or when the textual critic looks at what's been taken in the eclectic text, and then he brings them together, and they group them in schematics according to family, and then he says, now we've got these errors, or let me make it where it's right, where I think this is what the original said, and then boom, he's done. For the record, okay, for the record, since Nestle Aland bought the rights of the Westcott Hort Greek text, okay, way back when, and have come through. We are currently on, or they are currently on, the 28th edition of that Greek text, the NA28. Google it and find out for yourself, okay? They're on the 28th edition of that Greek text, which means the scholars have gotten together. They reviewed the information for the 26th edition and said, hey, this is great. Then they went back in and changed it some more, edited it some more. Then they went back in on the 28th time and they edited some more. And they tell you right in the introduction that they're not done yet. When are they going to get done? When will they get done editing the Greek text and say, we finally figured it out? And they're not working on that 0.5%, by the way. They're working on all of the Bible. And by the way, just for the record, I might as well bring it up now, okay? When you do the study, or when I do the study on the history of the King James, as well as the history of our Bible, where we got the Bible and the King James, and then they say that after 1769, when it came up to this 1881 Bible, the Westcott Hort Greek text, and then in 1881 they came out with the English version. They say that the English version, if you Google it, was a addition, or was a revision, I think is what they say, of the King James. No, it wasn't. It was not a revision of the King James in any way, shape, or form. And I can prove it. Not now, but I can prove it. Okay? The English version of 1881 was not a revision of the King James, and the American Standard Version of 1901 was the American answer to the English version of 1881, and it was not a revision of the King James either. Neither was the Revised English Standard of 47, okay? None of those were revisions of the King James. And I can prove it, okay? But not tonight. What I wanted you to get a hold of tonight, during this presentation, during this broadcast, was simply the fact that while they tell you the method is to bring together all the manuscripts, the 5,000 plus manuscripts, take the ones that are different and lay them to the side and use the majority, the ones that agree, in order to give us a monolithic text out of an eclectic text, okay? That is what they're saying was the method. That's not the method at all. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite. What they did was they took the major text, they took the majority text, they took the Byzantine text, and they laid it to the side. By the way, that Byzantine text type is where the King James came from. The majority of the manuscripts. The illustration that they give about the yardsticks is how we did get the King James, by the way. They lay that to the side. They bring in the ones that differ, and they build a Greek text out of manuscripts that do not align with each other. Okay? So I'll have admin put those links in for the other things that I showed earlier, and that way it'll give you the links for what you need. It's kind of late. It's almost 11 o'clock. And so I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and close this down. I just don't want to be up until who knows when. And so, because I do have to teach tomorrow, and I enjoy teaching when I'm in my class. I love it. Okay. And what are we teaching tomorrow? I forgot here. I can tell you in a second here. Let me come down here. I can tell you. We're teaching part of the, we're teaching on the perfection of the Word of God, specifically the purpose of the purpose of that. Okay. And so here I got to do this here. Get us back to where the purpose of the Word of God. What is the purpose of the Word of God? Yeah, I don't teach normal things like Noah and the ark. Okay, but anyway, so this has been another broadcast. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I hope you learned something. I always try to share good information. This has been another broadcast of the Ambassadors for Christ Ministries, and go to church tomorrow, worship the Lord your God, and give all glory to him that is due his name. Read your Bible, do what it says. See you next time. Thank you. Have a good night.